Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this first talk in our new series of studies on the subject of human beings in conflict, challenge for the conscious being. In this study group, we aim to explore the uncharted territories of our unconscious to help each other to understand or enhance our mental health, our spirituality, and our wholeness. I'm Fabrício Assunção from the Spirit Society of Bournemouth, and we are very pleased to have with us here Dr. Anahy Fonseca from the Spirit Medical Association of Brazil, who will lead this study group. The subject of tonight's study is the sick world. Each study will be in 3 sessions. First, a PowerPoint presentation with the main ideas brought by Joanna De Angelis and all the authors that can help us better understand and reflect on these topics. Next, we will have a question and answer session on tonight's topic. And finally, we will have time to share more our experience related to our study. Now, just a few words of introduction about Dr. Anahy Fonseca, if for those that has not studied with us before. So Anahy, she's a psychiatrist and a founding member of the Department of Psychiatry and Spirituality at the Psychiatry Association of Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. For some 30 years, she has been working psychotherapy, diagnosis, and research on the relationship between spirituality and mental health. She's also a Jungian analyst and member of the Medical Spirit Association of Brazil, where she teaches spiritist psychology by Joanna De Angelis. Now it's my pleasure to hand it over to Anahy for her talk on the sick world. Over to you, Anahy.
Thank you, Fabrício, and hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you that are here at this moment and that will be listening to us. So I think I'll just share my PowerPoint here so that we can start. Let's see. Whoops, something happened here. I think I just have to put the PowerPoint first, Fabrício. It has been a while. Let's see. Share. Is that okay now?
Yes, it is.
I'll just try to enhance the image.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Great. So this year's meetings are going to be about human beings in conflict, challenges for the conscious being. And it's we are going to be in a journey of self-discovery inspired by the spirit, Joanna De Angelis. And to start, I don't know if you remember or you have been with us, and for the ones that have not been with us last year or the previous year, can go to the Bournemouth Society, Spiritist Bournemouth Society, the YouTube channel, and find the other meetings. I can't remember. You can ask Fabrício. The one that we talked about, the dragonfly, if you remember. But it's all about synchronicity, okay? So I wanted to start this meeting this year telling you that I was walking by the seashore some days ago, and a little word about thinking, actually, and looking at the sky, at the ocean, and of course, listening to some inspired YouTube people talking and some music, and thinking about this meeting and this year um, this year meetings and what we would be talking about. So what happened is that suddenly uh, I was listening to some music, and suddenly YouTube channel that sometimes, as Fabricio said, I research what we call in psychiatry anomalous experiences. And we are in a national research. We have collected more than 400 cases already, and we are analyzing what we call anomalous phenomena, experiences that are mediumship, for instance, is one of the anomalous phenomena that psychiatrists are studying, as are, for instance, paranormal experiences, okay? This kind of, or even numinous experiences that we have been talking about with Professor Lionel Corbett last year, for instance. So I listened to some channels where people different from different religion and different, sorry, different uh, parts of the world talking about paranormal and mystical experiences. And suddenly I was by the seashore, walking and thinking about this group. And then a Brazilian mystic that is called Trigueirinho started speaking. He is already in the spiritual dimension. He passed away, I think, before the pandemic. But he was talking about some stories about math, about symbolism, about myths, right? And when I was thinking all of this about this group, about this year, about Joanna de Angelis, I heard him talking about and telling this story that I'm going to read to you now. And he was saying, so this is the small story. A man was walking on the sea a foot above the water level and was heading towards an island on which there were many rocks. When he reached it, he remained hovering, transmitting pure neutrality. And when he turned towards the horizon, he saw the red hue of a fire on the continent he had just left. Then a slender and graceful bird approached him and said, "You have reached the land of men who have now become ripe fruits of the great tree and who can bequeath new seeds to the future." That was exactly the story when I was thinking about this group, about everything that we would be talking about and reading, reflecting on Joanna de Angelis' teachings, our light worker and our light teacher. So, and our mentor that works, we know, with very, many other light teachers. Then suddenly I heard him saying this story, and as I was hearing this story, look at what, and I was with my mobile, look at what I see by the ocean. So isn't that, I'll just put a key here, isn't that a slender and graceful bird that approached the man and said, "You have reached the land of men who have now become ripe fruits of the great tree and who can bequeath new seeds to the future." And that was the bird. That's not an image from the internet or Google Image, people. This bird was right in front of me. So I just took my mobile and had even to take a picture while I was listening to to the story. So that's, for me, it was a very numinous experience. It was like, a communication, let's say, of something that I was inside myself, the wish to evolve spiritually, to help all of you as much as I can, to try to understand, as I am always trying to understand the teachings of Joanna de Angelis, as each one of her teachers all around the globe, because now there are lots of people studying in study groups and trying to teach and learn Joanna de Angelis. So this was a very numinous experience because I was very touched by this bird and by the ocean that were exactly in the story as this mystical person in Brazilian was talking about. So when a powerful synchronicity happens and brings to us some information from the depths of our psyche, okay, that we say it's a manifestation or it's an information coming from our higher self, from, the self, Jung self's capital S, okay? So I just wanted to start with this and to tell you, pay attention during this year to synchronicities like this, to numinous experiences that connect us with something that is sacred, that amazes us, that causes wonders, and the ego is just like, wow, this is something, we think like it's something so wonderful, because there is an information that is coming from our depths, the depths of our unconscious, and that suddenly appears in the outside world, let's say, okay? So I brought to you so that we can reflect upon what Fabricio has put in the WhatsApp group, two translations of texts that, of course, many of you have been able to read or some haven't. But what we see is that Joanna de Angelis, when we have a topic, she and she also is the person, the analyst that has put together and made, of course, with help of other people, all the texts and the subjects for different years of study, okay? So this study today, The Sick World, have three texts. And so since two of them have been translated and put in the WhatsApp group that people can look there and read, I summarized one that it's in the book that it's in the Amazon, that Fabricio said it's already translated, but many of you wouldn't be able to read. And the information, people, are in different texts. Joanna gives different points of view, but of the same topic, okay? But to start this, I brought some of Joseph Campbell. He's a mythologist, very well known all over the globe. And he's from the United States. And he has this wonderful book, The Inner Riches of Outer Space, okay, from 1986. So just an introduction, and you are going to see how well it helps us to understand and to expand what Joanna brings to us today. So Joseph Campbell says that reviewing with unprejudiced eye the religious traditions of mankind, one becomes very soon aware of certain mythic motifs that are common to all, though differently understood and developed in the different traditions. Ideas, for example, of a life beyond death, or of malevolent and protective spirits. Adolf Bastian that lived in 1826 to 1905, a medical man, world traveler, and leading ethnologist of the 19th century, for whom the chair in anthropology at the University of Berlin, and I know there are a lot of people from Germany today with us, was established. So he was the chair in anthropology at the University of Berlin was established for him, termed these recurring themes and features elementary ideas. And now maybe Andres or Perla can help me because I don't speak German, but I saw in the Google translation, Andres, Elemente, can you?
Völkergedanken.
Great, great. But the first
Völkergedanken.
one, elementary ideas would be elementary Gedanken.
Designed as authentic or folk ideas. Völkergedanken.
Okay, Gedanken. And the previous one, Andres, elementary ideas, elementary Gedanken.
Elementary Gedanken. No, it's elementary Gedanken. No, I think Baltrout could translate that.
Oh, okay. So thank you so much, Andres. So Adolf Bastian, okay, he's the one in the 19th century that brings the idea, recurrent themes and features, elementary ideas, right? Designating as ethnic or folk ideas the different manners of their representation, interpretation, and application in the arts and customs, mythologies and theologies of the people of this single planet. Such a recognition of two aspects, a universal and a local, in the constitution of religions everywhere, clarifies at one stroke those controversies touching eternal and temporal values. This is very important because we have these ideas, elementary ideas, a universal aspect and a local aspect, right? So this in the constitution of religions everywhere, all around the globe. So when we think like this, these two aspects of these elementary ideas, right? We, at one stroke, those controversies touching eternal and temporal values, truth and falsehood, which forever engage theologians, besides setting apart as one as of two distinct yet related signs, studies on the one hand of the different ethnic or folk ideas, which are concerned properly of historians and ethnologists, and on the other hand, the elementary ideas which pertain to psychology. So we have folk ideas, right, in this universal aspects and local, right? These two aspects of the elementary ideas. So we have folk ideas and ethnic that pertains to historians and ethnologists. And on the other hand, the elementary ideas which pertain to psychology. Now you understand, we have been talking about Jung, about archetypes, about the collective unconscious. So Campbell says a number of leading psychologists of the past century addressed themselves to the analysis of these universals, of whom Carl Gustav Jung, that everybody knows by now, was the most insightful and illuminating. The same mythic motifs that Bastian had termed elementary ideas, Jung called archetypes of the collective unconscious, transferring emphasis thereby from the mental sphere of rational ideation to the obscure subliminal abysm out of which dreams arise. Some of you have been studying dreams with the other teachers, right, Fabricio? Beautiful study group. So, in addition to our immediate consciousness, Jung is going to say, which is of a truthfully personal nature. So that's Freudian, the immediate consciousness, and our personal unconscious, we would say. So in addition to our immediate consciousness, which is of a truthfully personal nature, there exists a second psychic system of a collective, universal, and impersonal nature, which is identical in all individuals, that Jung called the collective unconscious, where the archetypes are. So Campbell says that for myths and dreams, in this view, are motivated from a single psychophysiological source, namely the human imagination, moved by the conflicting urgencies of the organs, including the brain, of the human body, of which the anatomy has remained pretty much the same since 40,000 BC. Accordingly, as the imagery of a dream is metaphorical of the psychology of its dreamer, that of a mythology is the metaphorical of the psychological posture of the people to whom it pertains. We are talking about the sick world today. We are going to be seeing pretty soon what Jonah Jangelis tells us about that. So I think it's very important for you, because we are talking today with people from different parts of the world, from different cultures, right? So see here, let's read this again, because this is very, very important. So this part of our unconscious that Jung called the collective unconscious, and that we have also called the transpersonal dimension of the psyche, beyond the personal, beyond the ego, beyond the personal unconscious, is the transpersonal dimension of the psyche, where we have all this heritage in the collective unconscious, the same meaning, collective unconscious, and the transpersonal dimension of the psyche, where we have the archetypes, these ancient types, the ancient structures that are part of our human heritage, spiritually speaking, psychologically speaking, and also when we are in the body, they are going to manifest in this material world, okay? So myths and dreams, in this view, are motivated from a single physiological source. It's psychic and physiological. It's from the psyche and from the body. This source, okay? From where myths and dreams arise, namely the human imagination, moved by the conflicting urgencies of the organs, including the brain, of the human body, of which the anatomy has remained, our human body, our anatomy has remained pretty much the same since 40,000 BC. Accordingly, as the imagery of a dream is metaphorical, symbolic, of the psychology of its dreamer, that of a mythology, all the myths of the people together. So that of a mythology, it is metaphorical of the psychological psychological posture of the people to whom it pertains. Okay? In our present day, when this same planet, Earth, rocking slowly on its axis in its course around the sun, is about to pass out of astrological range of the zodiacal sign of Fish, Pisces, into that of Water Bearer, Aquarius, it does indeed seem that a fundamental transformation of the historical conditions of its inhabiting humanity is in prospect. Remember Spiritist knowledge, we call it the planetary transition, let's say, okay? We could call that. And there are other terms. So the old gods are dead or dying, and people everywhere are searching, asking, what is the new mythology to be? The mythology of this unified earth and as of one harmonious being. So I know that many of you have read the text of Joanna de Angelis. So I just wanted you to connect with what we are talking now about the mythology, about symbolism, about this shift of consciousness, okay? And I brought to you that when Joseph Campbell is talking about the astrological range of the zodiac sign of the fish, Pisces, into that of water bear, Aquarius. Jung is going to talk for someone that wants to read a little more about that. You can look in Jung's book, Ion, okay? Where Carl Jung believed that the transition, he's going to be talking about that, the transition from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius would be a time of great change in humanity and in human consciousness. And don't we know that when we read Kardec, for instance, in Genesis, right? People go and read Kardec in Genesis, and actually the Spirit's book. But in Genesis, Kardec talks a lot about that. And everything that we are going to be reading and reflecting upon today of Joanna's teachings. So Jung believed that the shift from one astrological aeon to another was reflected in changes in the constellations of psychic dominance. He thought that these changes brought about long-lasting transformations of the collective psyche. He believed that the age of Aquarius would constellate, in his words, the problem of the union of the opposites. Keep that in mind. So in a psychological dominant that we are living right now in this shift of consciousness is the problem of the union of the opposites. We're going to be talking more about that, okay? So let's go on. So one cannot predict the new mythology any more than one can predict tonight's dream. For a mythology is not an ideology. Pay attention to that. A mythology is not an ideology. It is not something projected from the brain, but something experienced from the heart, from recognitions of identities behind or within the appearances of nature, perceiving with love a Tao where there would have been otherwise only a it. As stated in the Shagdoya, I think, Upanishad in 19th century BC, when, sorry for whom speak Indian, I don't. So when in the world one sees nothing else, hears nothing else, this is from Upanishad from 9th century BC, people. So look at what's written. So when in the world one sees nothing else, hears nothing else, recognize nothing else, that is participation in the infinite. But when one sees, hears, and recognizes only otherness, that is smallness. The infinite is the immortal. That which is small is mortal. That is so beautiful. So now that we know the concept of Jung's concept of the self, that Joanna tells us Jung's self is the spirit. So when the Upanishad in this small sentence says that when one sees nothing else, hears nothing else, recognizes nothing else, we are not talking about the ego, right? Because we are participating in the infinite. So then, of course, we would have to be in meditation or in prayer, because then the ego calms down, right? And we connect better with the higher self, with our spirit. But they say when one sees, hears, and recognizes only otherness, only I and the other, that is smallness. That is the ego speaking. The infinite is the immortal. Our spirit is immortal. That which is small is mortal. So our body is small, our ego is small. Yes, when we go to other spiritual dimensions, we are going pretty much to leave the ego, our egos, our personality at some point behind, not extinguished, because all the knowledge, all the experiences and memories will be with us, will be integrated in our spirit. But of course, we are not going to be the same as in here at this moment. So the life of a mythology derives from the vitality of its symbols as metaphors, delivering not simply the idea, but a sense of actual participation in such a realization of transcendence, infinity, and abundance, as this of which the Upanishadic authors tell. Indeed, the first and most essential service of a mythology is this one of opening the mind and heart to the utter wonder of all being. And the second service then is cosmological, of representing the universe and the whole spectacle of nature, both as known to the mind and as beheld by the eye, as an epiphany of such kind that when lightning flashes, or a setting sun ignites the sky, or a deer is seen standing alerted, the exclamation, "Ah," may be uttered as a recognition of divinity. At this moment, this epiphany is the connection to the sacred, right? Is a numinous experience that, as we have seen with Professor Lana Corbett last year, Jung says has a healing effect, okay? So this suggests that in the new mythology, which is to be of the whole human race, at this moment, at this transition, right, in this spiritual transition that we are right now in this moment, this shift of consciousness. So the desacralization of nature, and remember that Jung says that psyche belongs to the nature. We are part of the nature. Psyche is part of the nature. So we have been rejected. So what Campbell is saying that all of this suggests that in the new mythology that is being born right now, which is to be of the whole human race, the desacralization of nature will have been rejected. So now this, in the Awakening of the Spirit, this book of 2,000 people by Divaldo, psychographing Joanna de Angelis in the year 2000, she says in the preface, The human being is a complexity of transcendent values that blend together in depth, having their roots, look at that, in the inexhaustible sources of cosmic life. So each one of us is a complexity of transcendent values, right? Not only from this life, from this world. We are a complexity of transcendent values that blend together in depth, having their roots, these values, in the inexhaustible sources of cosmic life. See how everything fits together? So any attempt to reduce she to merely organic equipment under the control of the brain neurons does not achieve the objectives indispensable to understanding her reality. So if we get stuck in the material world, in the material perception, let's say, of our body, of our senses that are important to this life, but we cannot get stuck on it, on our body, on our, depending upon our physical senses, right? If we do that, we are not achieving this understanding of our own complexity and about, the understanding, the connection with our transcendent values that Joanna is talking about, that come, all these values, we people now, we have these transcendent values that come from these inexhaustible sources of cosmic life. So cosmic life is within each one of us. Isn't that beautiful? So Joanna says that a vision, however, more appropriate for an analysis of the human being is that which arises from the three-dimensional being as established by Allan Kardec: spirit, thinking energy; perispirit, the subtle body; and matter, our body, as mental, verbal constructions and actions transit from one to another vibratory field of differentiated structure. All of this complexity, and we here are talking about only this three dimensions that we know open for all other dimensions, because we have the mental body and so on, and astral body and all of that, okay? But so that we can stay with Allan Kardec in this first view, three-dimensional being as we are: spirit, perispirit or subtle body, and matter body. So Joanna is saying that for a more appropriate analysis of the human being, as mental, verbal constructions and actions transit from one to other vibratory field, all these fields that are related to our complexity and action make our complexity of different structures, inscribing in the organic emotion, in this organic, right, body, emotional and mental equipment also, the inevitable results arising from them. So if we pay attention to this sentence, Joanna is calling us to pay attention. We are talking about the sick world, right? That our mental and verbal constructions and also our actions, they transit from one to another vibratory field that are part of us, right? Of our complexity, of these different structures that belong to us, inscribing in this construction, this complexity, in these different bodies, let's say, right? And in the organic, emotional, and mental equipment, the inevitable results arising from them. So everything that we think, feel, we're going to be talking more on that in the Congress in September, right? And the way that we act in this world, because our actions are a result of everything that we think, that we feel, and of our emotions, right? So also the way that we act, they create different vibrations and they influence, they transit all of these constructions, let's say. They go from vibratory field to another, our spirit, the thinking energy, the mental body, let's say, in the subtle body also, in our emotional body, and in our physical body. And we like suffer inevitable results from them, from our mental, verbal, and actions, constructions and actions. Okay, so let's go on. So knowledge of the spirit as the basic reality of organic existence enables the understanding of the objectives that must be sought during the carnal experience, a necessary stage in the process of evolution, through which the seeds of wisdom and love that are present within it blossom, okay, within our spirit. So remember what we have read and reflect upon with Joseph Campbell. So we are creating a new mythology at this moment, at this precise moment, because we are shifting our consciousness with like teachers as Joanna, okay? So the knowledge of the spirit is everything at this moment. As much as we can search for understanding the spirit, we need that at this point, okay? Because it enables us the understanding of the understanding of the objectives that must be sought during this existence in the body as a necessary stage in the process of evolution through which the seeds of wisdom and love that are present within it blossom. So the task of spiritist psychology is to become a bridge between the notable contributions of the ancestral studies of eminent psychologists and the spiritist thought, which illuminates the recesses and abysses of the individual and collective unconscious, the archetypes, the impulses and tendencies, the conflicts and torments, the aspirations of beauty, of the ideal, of the search for plenitude as a result of the intimate achievements of each being in his/her long reincarnationist climb. The discovery of the spirit broadens the existential horizons. So the discovery of the spirit broadens the existential horizons. Don't we need that? So in this book that Fabrizio said that you can find in Amazon, but I summarize because many of you wouldn't be able to read. So Joanna says, in Crisis and Afflictions, chapter 2, the word crisis comes from the Sanskrit kri or kur, meaning to release or to purify. Remember the little story that I told you in the beginning. It also derives from the Greek crisis, which can be interpreted as a change, a conflict that takes place at any stage in life when unresolved internal issues run into new ones. Every evolutionary process, in its most varied aspects, suffers periodical crises resulting from the need to evaluate the methodology employed, making room for new practices and different approaches. We are right now in this process, in an evolutionary shift of consciousness. Just as a crisis appears as privation, struggle, and transformation, it also provides new paths and concepts in keeping with the ethical, moral, and social structures of the times. The modern world experiences a crisis of values, but is also undergoing an internal convulsion, as in tectonic plates, for instance, and earthquakes and things like that, as does the society that inhabits it, resulting from the convulsions experienced by its members. Remember the synchronistic events, everything that we feel deeply inside of us, and that it's very important to our spirits. Everything is going to manifest in the world, in the outside world, in a certain point. So humans, Joanna says, derived from humus, meaning fertile soil, are also in turmoil. Fabrizio, can you still hear?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, because I thought there was some problems in the lights here. So the modern world experiences a crisis of values, but is also undergoing an internal convulsion, as does the society that inhabits it, resulting from the convulsions experienced by its members. Humans derived from humus, meaning fertile soil, are also in turmoil, discovering that everything around them suffers the effects of that disturbance, perhaps necessary at the moment for new concepts and behaviors to emerge. While human beings fight each other, controlled by the dubious interests on which they depend, cooperation, and not competition is to be found everywhere in the universe. I think this is so important that Joanna is bringing to and this is from 2007, people, in the book Finding Peace and Health. While human beings fight each other, controlled by the dubious interests on which they depend or they think they depend, cooperation and not competition is to be found everywhere in the universe. Society is a whole that should be harmonious, but prejudice born of selfishness and arrogance has divided it into ethnic, social, racial, cultural, behavior, and religious groups. So prejudice are the bitter fruits, say Joanna, of the moral crisis tormenting individuals unhappy with their own behavior and impulses, who demand personal privileges as a result of their own psychological insecurity when dealing with others. Unfortunately, we have lots of people that are supposedly leaders around the globe that have exactly this problem that Joanna is talking about. This type of behavior has driven humanity to self-destruction. A logic and understanding reaction is in order. Either everyone unites in a common ideal, or, Joanna says, insanity takes over. In this daily struggle, it is impossible for the winner to survive. Should an individual, group, nation, or continent emerge as such, as a winner, for instance, for the winner would soon fall on the corpses of the defeated as a casualty of his or her own deeds. Any and all cooperation is therefore needed and urgent so that the great crisis dominating the planet and all sentient beings, especially human beings, may impact the minds and the conscience of those who generate crises. The planet itself is being devastated in several areas as a result of the lack of respect for life, nature, and Mother Earth. There has to be a renewed awareness regarding its immediate preservation before chaos sets in for good. It is true that nature has its own resources for self-renewal and self-reconstruction, but they require time and the appropriate conditions which human beings do not allow for. Only a human and sociological crisis of conscience can awaken those who are destroying the habitat, allowing them to understand the notions of responsibility and respect for the natural limits imposed by cosmic balance. The unconsciousness regarding life, the abuse of natural resources, industrial greed, and the arrogance of some nations are responsible for the current state of the earth. All this is the result of the moral crisis assailing modern men and women who, having already understood planetary dynamics, remain indifferent to the consequences. It is as if they have no interest in the future, thinking that they will not be a part of it anyway. This is a materialistic delusion, according to which death is the end of life, forgetting the laws of progress and cause and effect in force everywhere, whereby the return up to the evolutionary path through reincarnation is inevitable. See how important it is, people, that we don't fall in this materialistic delusion. So, ending this part, Joanna talks about in this chapter existential crisis, and she says that because of the rapid succession of scientific and technological advances, as well as the individual and collective insane ambition to accumulate and enjoy more and more, people have been almost suddenly stricken by a feeling of dissatisfaction with what they have and what they have achieved, resulting in what she calls an existential vacuum, responsible for concerning inner conflicts. Disoriented by false need, says Joanna, to accumulate and enjoy in excess, the masses turn to collective depression or violence as escapisms, hoping to find in aggressive behavior the pleasure they no longer feel. These absurdities of all kinds emerge, such as eagerness to call attention and the pursuit of external self-realization, rooted in the frustration of not having achieved it internally. Inevitably, behavioral crises fueled by emotional conflicts arise. Today, virtual communications and the media deliver a huge amount of information, overloading people's minds and hearts, and demanding one of two coping mechanisms to better deal with the next dose of perturbing and afflictive news. Apprehension about relationships, life and tribulations, or blocked emotions and indifference. Unaccustomed to introspection and reflection, they look for external solutions that do not exist. The human psyche, look, I think this is so wonderful. Look what Joanna teaches us. The human psyche is almost as old as the universe. The human psyche is almost as old as the universe. Since the time of creation, the psyche began to form under the command of the divine mind. That's a sentence to put in the fridge, people. And look every day, remember every day. So, advancing by means of natural processes through the expressions of the cosmos, it reached the human stage, preserving all of its ancestral experiences that are the foundation of its modern achievements. Nevertheless, residuals remain, creating resistance to assimilating new impulses to reflect and grow. An existential crisis is a way to break with the past, with some of those residuals, enabling new intellectual and emotion investments so that other levels of support may emerge for the attainment of more complex forms of harmony. Human beings have a depth that must be penetrated, moving past the superficiality of everyday life in search of the authentic qualities that make them different from the other animals. So, ending this PowerPoint presentation, Joanna says, in this way, human beings become a link that unites and reunites all beings in the great universal family, terrestrial for the time being. Wow, I love that. Terrestrial for the time being. Remember that I love Star Trek and the other fictional movies that talk about space. And advancing toward God, which is the highest goal to be reached little by little. So human beings become a link that unites and reunites all beings in the great universal family, advancing toward God, which is the highest goal to be reached little by little. And I wish for you all, we can talk later about the symbolism, but that you find this bird that I have found, and I know that I have found also because of all of you and for you, that can tell you, right, that we, as this bird told the man of the story, she, of course, or it, the bird, was a psychopomp, a guide of the soul, telling, as Joanna is telling us, this way towards God, that we have in the end of this life become ripe fruits of the great tree, and who can bequeath new seeds to the future. So I hope all of us with this study this year can be fruits of ripe fruits of this great tree that is Joanna de Angelis' family, and that we can bequeath new seeds to the future. Thank you, and I think we can stop sharing. And Fabricio, since we had the presentation of everybody that took some, some long minutes, I think today we just wanted to prepare people, right? And I think that today we can go directly to some questions and comments that people have. And we will leave then, now that everybody knows the dynamic for the next meeting, I will not be more than 30 minutes and hope not most of 35 minutes, something like that, so that we can have time for the questions, and then we will stop sharing after the recording after, as you said, the questions, and everybody that is present can have some time of sharing their own experiences, right?
Mhm. What I want to ask you and the group, because we have now gone over the time, do we want to extend a little bit more and take some questions and do some questions and answers, or shall we end here or take the questions and answers for the next meeting? What do you and the group feel about it?
We could start if people want, because the next meeting is going to be in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, 23rd of March.
Yeah, so then everybody could read if they want. I don't know how people feel. Could read the text, someone that hasn't had time, reflect upon the PowerPoint that is going to be, you're going to put in the YouTube channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we could start with Q&A because we are not in a rush, as I told you. And we had to present ourselves today and get to know each other a little bit. So let's vote. If people want to extend a little and answer some questions for you to reflect at home or later on, or want to start next meeting with Q&A and sharing experiences, I think people can vote. I don't know, Fabrizio.
Yeah. If someone has got any questions, um, perhaps you can raise your hand and we can extend a little bit. And then if we can't take all the questions tonight, we then can start the next meeting with some questions and answers before we move on to the next topic. So how does that feel for everyone? Does anyone
You
has
could.
got any questions? Okay, I think people say let's then we start next week. So I think what we can do, and I we share the slides, if you don't mind, on the WhatsApp group, and then people can reflect or maybe have some more time to read Jonas' page that I shared on the WhatsApp group, and then we can either go with questions and answers throughout the next couple of weeks. Anyone is popping up on a WhatsApp group to myself, any questions, then we can answer those questions maybe on our first on our meeting on the 23rd of March.
Yes, because I'm here, I'm seeing here in our, we are not in a rush, people. And I'm seeing here that for the 23rd of March, we are also going to be talking about contemporary disease. So I would suggest I will share with you in the WhatsApp group the PowerPoint, okay? I put now that people can go over it and have some time to read the text that Fabrizio has put in the WhatsApp group. And we can start with questions and answers next meeting. Fabrizio, I think so that we don't, people don't get, with a lot of material. We could, you and I can discuss a little bit which text we can translate for next meeting too. Then we could, I think, because they are all related, the sick world and contemporary disease. Then we could see the contemporary disease and have more time for questions and answers on both topics, and also some time for sharing experiences together. Is that
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, let's do that. So we will share the PowerPoint on a WhatsApp group. I will ask everyone to actually read the text and maybe write to me your questions as you read in the text. We share two texts there, and then we will take the questions and answers on our next meeting in a couple of weeks. But what I would say, and I'm going to reinforce that um, for us to progress and deeper our understanding, we need to do our part. So we do need to read the text, because if you just sit here, listen to someone for about an hour and a half, and then most of the context can maybe go beyond our understanding. We need to do the reading. We need to, and there is not such a silly questions or anything. If you don't understand, if you read the text, you don't understand the concept or the word or the vocabulary or whatever you are in this journey, don't be embarrassed to just reach out to us and ask the question, because that's how we're gonna perhaps go even deeper and expand our understanding on the Joanna's teaching. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'm reading some comments that people are putting in the chat, and some
Mhm.
said not only make questions, but maybe comments, right? Because we
Yes.
want to share with all of you things that you have reflected upon, things, maybe some synchronicities that have happened, insights and intuitions, okay? This is all for sharing, right?
Yes. Okay. So what I would say, our next meeting then is the 23rd of March. Please jog your questions to me and I will share on the group. And I hope to see you all on the 23rd of March. Good night, everyone. And thank you, Anahy, once again. Bye for now, everyone.
Good night. See you in a couple of weeks. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank